Hey everyone, welcome back to another powerful episodes of Healing Horizons. I'm your host Avik, and if you have ever wanted to try yoga but thought that I'm not flexible enough, this episode is for you. Yeah, because today we are breaking down not only how to pick the right yoga class, but also why inflexibility might be the best reason to start. Is our guide, our expert uh, guest is Rachel Lundberg. So welcome to the show, Rachel.
Thank you, Avik. I'm happy to be here. Excited.
Amazing. So, dear listeners, before we move in, I would love to introduce you with Rachel. So Rachel is the founder of Yoga Oak University and the creator of the alignment-based yoga specialist certification. So her journey is extraordinary. Like former classical ballet dancer, chronic illness survivor, and the courageous truth seeker who left high demand region at 41. And she's combined over 30 years of movement expertise with her personal healing journey to create Embodied Wise Yoga, a revolutionary approach that integrates brain, body, and the heart. Yeah. So, dear listeners, whether you are a total beginner or a health provider looking to recommend safe movement practices, or I would say someone who is returning to yoga after injury, then Rachel's insights are going to help you approach yoga in a way that's safe, sustainable, and truly yoga. So, welcome, Rachel. Let's start and welcome to the show again, Rachel.
Yes, thank you for that introduction.
Lovely, thank you, so much. Yeah. So Rachel, so many people are overwhelmed by the sheer number of yoga styles out there, right? Like for someone who is just starting, uh, what's the first thing that they should be look for when choosing a class?
Well, I do think that your current level of movement should help you decide what kind of class to look for. If you aren't, if you're not very mobile, I'm going to guide you in a certain direction. If you're somebody that's looking for more vigorous and challenging movement, and then I would guide you in a different direction. So, based on what it is that you're looking for, in general, if you, and because there are, like you said, so many different styles of yoga, I really recommend that people do read the class descriptions, of course, and also if they have the opportunity to read the bios of the teacher that they're looking at taking class from to see what level of education they've received, how many years they've been teaching. Typically, with experience comes obviously wisdom and knowledge as a teacher. Um, but that said, there can be some beginning teachers that do a fantastic job. But the main things to look for, the I think the demographic that has the hardest time finding the right kind of yoga class is our aging demographic. So people in the age group of 50 and beyond, um, especially into their 60s and 70s, need to look for classes that feel safe for their bodies to be able to move in a way that feels good to them. So you want to look for classes that oftentimes classes that use words like foundations or introduction or um, modifications, assists, so that you can be ensured that your teacher will be actually keeping an eye on you, because some yoga practices are not intended to be a lot of instruction. It's just a lot of following along. But when someone's really getting started, they should seek out the kind of class where they're going to actually be instructed on how to do this practice, because there are some pretty specific poses that you want to learn how to do for your own particular body.
Yeah, very, very true, said, yeah. And, and like, um, are there any kind of red flags that tell you that a class might not be the right fit, or maybe even unsafe for a beginner? Anything you want to say?
Well, because I'm a teacher and I also train yoga teachers, of course, I have some, pretty strong viewpoints on that. I feel like when we take on the title of teacher, that as a yoga teacher, we have a responsibility to actually teach something. Um, I would say that the biggest red flag for me is when I go into a class and I notice that the teacher is either keeping their eyes closed while they're teaching or just not yet paying attention to what's happening in the room and kind of just doing a practice and hoping that everybody follows along. Um, that kind of class is not going to be a great fit if you're just getting started or if you're feeling a little nervous about starting. Um, it'll be a much better fit for you to find a class where the teacher's going to be paying attention and guiding you. So that's a red flag. And I think another red flag is classes that really discourage you from using props. Um, I think, yoga is best accessed when we can access it through the use of props because our bodies are so different and props make it possible for pretty much anybody to do many of the postures that seem impossible to do can be done if we just use props.
Wait, thank you so much for sharing that. And I mean, obviously, this is definitely itself valuable advice because finding the right teacher and also that style can make the difference between uh, loving the yoga and also walking the frustrated or injured. So that is also very, yeah.
Mhm, mhm. Yes, and I think that what happens for a lot of just on the side of being a yoga teacher is that many of the yoga teacher training programs um, don't fully prepare teachers to work with different styles of bodies and different levels of mobility. That's one of the reasons that really motivated me to create the alignment based yoga specialist program for teachers so that they could learn how to modify the practice specifically for people who need special modifications, whether it's due to body size or mobility. And it's a special skill that takes time to acquire, and it also takes a desire for us as teachers to put ourselves in the space of being the beginner yoga student. What's it like to be a beginner student? What does it feel like? What might the beginner student be feeling about their body, about their ability, and can we meet them there? And I feel like more and more yoga trainings and teachers, I should say teachers in general, can benefit from more training in that regard. And that's one of the things that alignment based yoga specialist certification program that fills the gap with that.
Mm. No, true, thank you. It's very true. Yeah. And from here, one more thing is like you have said that inflexibility is actually one of the best reasons to start yoga. So, uh, I mean, if you can explain this, like why stiffness or maybe um, limited mobility can be a strength rather than a setback.
I love this question because I would say the most frequent thing that people say when they find out that I'm a yoga teacher is they say, "Oh, I don't like yoga." Not everybody says that, but they'll be like, "Oh, I don't like yoga, or I can't do yoga. I'm too inflexible." And uh, I I wish that I could just take them by the hand. Sometimes they do come into my classes, but and just show them that they are not too inflexible for yoga, and that in fact being inflexible is the perfect reason to come to yoga. The people that you see in Instagram and on the ads and different things like that are typically quite flexible, naturally. Oftentimes are very flexible people. But those of us that are a little less flexible and feel less flexible, It actually, first of all, is going to increase the flexibility of your muscles, which you absolutely need. But that inflexibility can also help protect you from injury. So sometimes it's the overly flexible students that get injured more often. It's the inflexible students that really, really benefit from gaining the flexibility and keeping strength. So I think that all students are perfect students for yoga, but I really like to make a special invitation to those that feel like they're too inflexible for yoga. I just think that if you're feeling too inflexible for yoga, you probably haven't found the right class, because the right class is going to help you feel like you actually can do it, not that you can't do it.
Yeah, exactly, definitely. And also like have you seen the beginners with like apparently flexibility progress like faster than they expected like once they start working with the pro like
Absolutely. That's a great question. Yes. I had a woman come into the studio and she's in her mid 60s, and she told me that she had never worked out a day in her life, never done any sort of exercise. She was not out of shape. She wasn't overweight. She didn't have a lot of injuries, but she also had never been active in her life. And she was worried that she was not going to be able to do yoga. Um, Now, after just a couple of weeks of being in one of our alignment-based classes, she started to notice that she was getting up and down more easily, that she was moving around more with more ease, and that her body started to feel not only more flexible, but much stronger. And it can happen really quickly. Research shows us now that just because we're getting older doesn't mean that our bodies won't adapt to movement that we are introducing. So we want to continue to move throughout our lifetimes, throughout our lifetime. And and she is a perfect example of that because, a lot of people once they get into their 60s or 70s kind of think that that's the end of the road. And the truth is that's actually that's the majority of people that come to my particular style of classes is a bit older. And I have people that are doing all of the flexibility things and also the strength things. So some of my strongest students that can do a plank pose for 2 minutes are in their 70s. So so there's speaking not only to the student that feels inflexible, but also to the student that might feel like they're too old or that their body's not going to move this way. If under the right direction and with the right mindset, you will make significant progress.
amazing, amazing. Yeah, yeah. And wow, I mean I have to say that I really love that because uh, uh turning what feels like a kind of uh what to say what- like a weakness into an advantage completely shifts the mindset around starting something new. So that is my first point. Yeah. And so like
Yeah, it's never too late. Never too late to start.
exactly. Yeah. And also like I was saying like um in work you have trained not only the yoga teachers but also healthcare providers on how to recommend safe yoga. I believe which is very much important. So from that perspective, what do you think are the most common mistake that you see in classes that can lead to the injury?
Mm. Classes that move too fast. So, classes that are moving really fast and that, yoga is ultimately meant to be a breath and movement. I'm going to speak just to the movement part of yoga. Yoga itself is a philosophy that incorporates many different things. One portion of it is movement, and that movement in yoga, excuse me, is called asana. So ultimately, it's the union of the breath and movement. And so some classes really take that to heart and you actually do a movement per breath, like per inhale, per exhale. And there's a lot of quick moving poses. Um, I find that the best audiences for that type of yoga tend to be a bit younger, not because older people can't do it, but it's just not a great place to start. Um, in my opinion, that's actually kind of the icing on the cake type of yoga. Like, we don't want to start there. We want to build up a foundational practice to then be able to feel confident and strong and capable of moving in a fast class. Because in those faster classes, there's so many transitions that happen. We end up seeing a lot of shoulder injuries, specifically with the vinyasas when people are moving from, and if you're familiar with yoga, you'll know what I'm talking about, but moving from chaturanga to up dog as part of the vinyasa flow is probably one of the number one areas where people experience uh, injury. So the shoulders can get really injured when those classes are moving really quickly, and so does the low back and also the knees. And so um without proper alignment and without proper strength and flexibility, a fast-moving class is just can really set you up for injury. Um, and sometimes just the repetitive movements over time can cause injuries of their own. So I'm not saying people shouldn't do fast-moving classes, but those would be the ones that tend to cause most injuries, and also the ones that tend to make people not wanna come back to yoga because they might have stepped into a class that was moving too quickly, they couldn't figure it out, they felt embarrassed, or, they got injured. And so, I would say if you step into a class and it's moving really quickly, don't be afraid to step out. It happens a lot. As teachers, that happens with a student might not like your class and they're going to step out, and that's okay. We need to respect that. Um, or what I do when I'm taking a class that feels too fast for me is I just slow it down for myself. But again, I'm in a space of being really comfortable with the practice. Um, so I always say start slow and steady, and then move your way up to faster moving. But I wouldn't go the other way around. That's gonna be a little bit more, asking for injury.
Understood. Yeah, true. And is it possible for the beginners to advocate for themselves in class without feeling kind of awkward?
Wow, that's a great question. I think that's really teacher dependent. So, my message in this regard would be to teachers that we allow there to be more dialogue and, interaction in our classes, because it's unlikely that a student's going to ask a question and pause in the middle of a really quickly moving class. Um So most people probably aren't going to pipe up and say something in the middle of a class, but as teachers, we can normalize it. So if the middle of the class is not the appropriate time for somebody to ask a specific question, it can be helpful for us to begin the class by saying, "I'm happy to answer questions after class," or if you have any specific questions in this time before class begins, I'm happy to assist and answer. Um, in my particular classes, I continue a dialogue with the students, so, throughout class, and it's okay for them to ask questions. But you do have to be an advocate for yourself no matter what you do, whatever practice you're doing, and we need to release ourselves of the pressure of staying in a class that doesn't feel good to the body. Just allow yourself to leave, and or pause or lie down or take a seat, and then when it feels like an appropriate time, definitely ask the questions.
True. Totally. Yeah. And I mean, yes, definitely. So it's such an empowering point because students need to know their body is the authority, no matter who's teaching at the room. But
Mhm.
yes, those are important as well. Yeah.
And a lot of that we can prepare for that, and I really admire the students that reach out via email ahead of class time and ask questions, "What should I wear? What do I need to bring?" And, like on our homepage of our website, of the Yoga Oak University is an online platform, but my Thrive Yoga OC is our physical space. And we have an FAQ page, this is what you need to wear. You want to wear something that's comfortable, but not overly baggy. Um, in general, you're barefoot in class. And so it's good for people to know that ahead of time, because if they have self-consciousness about their feet or something like that, it's okay to wear socks, but typically people go barefooted. And some studios make you rent a mat, and some studios have mats already there for you and props. And so there's a culture within the yoga system that a lot of people is also intimidating for people. Um, you know, and they want to know what to expect. They don't want to show up to the studio and they were supposed to have brought their own mat. Um, so it's good to do a little research and not be afraid to ask questions via email or give the studio a call. It's also kind of a shocker to show up to a studio and have to rent a mat, if you aren't expecting that. Having to pay for the class, and then in addition to that, having to pay money to use a mat or a towel. So it's good to know that some of these things are that some of these things can be expected or anticipated, and to ask the questions.
Exactly. And also would love to know about the embodied wise yoga approach, uh, like as it integrates the mind, body, and the heart. So, how does this holistic view change the way people experience yoga as compared to that normal or the traditional yoga formats or the class formats?
Hmm. Thank you for asking that. So you may have picked up on the fact that I work with people at various levels, right? So I'm working with people as students, I'm working with people as potential teachers, and then I also train teachers and healthcare providers to to advance their teachings beyond a traditional teacher training. But in addition to that, the Embodied Wise Yoga program I created for anyone who finds themselves in a space where they are maybe in a space of transition in life, or experiencing grief, or a disconnection from self. Maybe they are experiencing chronic illness, or they are moving out of a belief system that gave them a foundation in their life. Maybe they're leaving a marriage or a job, or just that they find that they're overly stressed and they can't seem to self-regulate. The Embody Wise program is based on my own experience with chronic illness and major life transitions. It's based on my own journey with learning about the brain and how the brain works, and the science of the brain and neuroplasticity. And it works with how I understand the body to work. So, somatic practices that help regulate the nervous system. And when we can address the brain and we can address the body and understand these two aspects of who we are, it starts to open up a space where we can connect more fully to our heart space, our own inner wisdom, connecting us back to our own intuition, our own, what I call yoga of alignment, which is really your own path of alignment. It has nothing to do with yoga poses. The Embody Wise Yoga program really has nothing to do with yoga poses. It has everything to do with creating a life of alignment, your very own life of alignment, by understanding the ways to deconstruct belief systems and create new ways of being in your brain, in your body, and ultimately connected with your heart. It's a passion project of mine because of the things I've experienced that brought me to the space, that created healing for me, and I've been able to formulate that into a way to assist others.
Sure. And then also, like, have you found that this approach helps students not just in flexibility or strength, but about their overall well-being and the stress levels? Anything you want to highlight?
Absolutely. So, when I think of us as human beings and I think of movement, and yoga, I think that movement in yoga can be kind of the entry point for many of us to get more connected to our inner wisdom. Um, Oftentimes, yoga provides a space where we can have a little bit more quiet, a little bit more introspection. And Embodied Wise Yoga is not about physical flexibility. It's not about physical strength. It's about the flexibility of your brain, the strength that you can create in the neural connections of your brain. It's about understanding, listening to, and nurturing your body in the ways that your body needs, and then connecting to the deep wisdom of your heart. So it goes way beyond yoga poses. Definitely meant to be transformational for your life beyond.
Exactly. Oh, it's really beautiful because yoga then becomes less about changing the poses and about more building a deeper relationship with yourself. So that is much more.
Well, and that's what yoga is about. I mean, the philosophy of yoga is about returning to self, returning to the divinity within you. We in the West have really latched on to the physical practice of yoga because we tend to be very physical and very get it done type of mentality. But the truth is that yoga is about getting quiet, and it's about going inside and inside of ourselves. And so, and now science really supports the philosophies of yoga, and neuroplasticity and the neuroscience really supports what the philosophy has been teaching all along. And so it's not that I'm teaching anything that's new, but there is new science that can be super helpful, to help us understand why it's important, and maybe motivates people a little bit more fully to try to, understand how the brain works and understand somatics, and ultimately to connect with their heart. Whether or not they can touch their toes really doesn't matter.
Exactly. Yeah. Ooh, that's amazing. And also, like, for someone who's listening right now, who's intimidated by the yoga studios or uh, also maybe worried about the injury, what's the simplest step they can take today to start safely? So what is it?
That's a great question. Well, of course, I would love everybody to come take a class at my studio, which you can do. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world or where you're at, time wise. We do have, you can go to the website thriveyogaoc.com, and you can redeem a free class voucher. And we live stream all of our classes, in addition to teaching them in person. So even if you are, let's say, in, I don't know, wherever you might be, and that doesn't fit your time frame, if you still sign up for the class, it'll send you a recording of the class. So I know for sure that if you were to sign up and try a class from myself or one of the foundation's teachers here, that you're going to find a very a safe and supported practice. If you want to go somewhere that's in your vicinity, the safest thing that you can do is just have confidence that you'll be able to figure it out. That with the little tips and cues that I've given you in this podcast, that, you know, you can ask the questions, you can look on the website to see who the teachers are. If you feel comfortable with what their style is, if you see a lot of words you don't understand, just Google them. They're probably Sanskrit words, that are the language of yoga. Um, and they do have English meanings, and you can find what those mean. Like if you see the word vinyasa, that's going to mean more of a flow class, and it's probably going to be a faster moving class. So I would say to take a little bit of time, get a little bit more, research a little bit. And then if the first class you don't like it, try something different. Try a different teacher, try a different time. Don't give up right away. There's a lot of beautiful, wonderful yoga out there, and you'll find something that fits well.
Exactly. Thank you so much for sharing this. And also, really, one more thing which I missed of highlighting or asking basically, like, um, uh, what would you recommend then, like starting at home, or is in-person guidance feel better for the beginners?
Mm, I think people should start however they'd like. So if you wanna be at home, do it at home. It of ultimately, some people just really like practicing from home, and they're really comfortable with it. I do find the majority of people really do would say it after doing it at home for a while, prefer to go in. Maybe they've built up a little confidence, a little bit more awareness of kind of how things go, and then and go and try it in person. I don't know that there's a better way. I think it's just whatever way feels best to you. Whatever way is gonna get you to try it is the best way.
Great, great, Rachel. Thank you so much for helping us cut through that noise and see yoga for uh, what it can truly be, like a safe, empowering, and deeply personal practice. And for everyone who is listening, the right yoga class is not about keeping up, it's all about showing up for yourself. So, as we are discussing, and will be discussed as well, like find the teacher and an approach that honor your body's needs, and uh, let the journey unfold from there, right? So basically, if someone's like you, what will be the best?
So, if you're interested as a teacher in learning more, then you'll want to go to yogaoakuniversity.com. That's where I have all of my teacher training programs and also my Embody Wise program. So, if that Embody Wise section that I talked about is interesting to you, you can find out more at yogaoakuniversity.com. As far as taking physical yoga classes from me, either online or in person, or from one of the teachers in my space, you'll want to go to Thrive Yoga OC, and you can see the schedule. And like I said before, you can try a class for free. We also have a very extensive video library of classes. And I would love to get an email with questions and be happy to answer that. So you can reach me through either of those places.
That's really amazing. And yeah, great. And dear listeners, if this episode has encouraged you to give yoga a fresh start, then please share it with a friend, family, or someone who's been curious but hesitant. And also remember that your healthy mind and the healthy life begins with meeting yourself exactly where you are. So, with this hope, until next time, be happy, be healthy, and be mindful. So, thank you so much.